As you intimated, though, there is a sort of fait accompli aspect of the Barrett nomination. I mean, barring something changing in an unforeseen way in the few days, it's likely that the Republicans will be able to confirm her with zero Democratic support. And as you and your colleagues have highlighted, her record, her statements, particularly her lifelong activism on issues like abortion, suggests that her confirmation really could be the undoing of health insurance very quickly for tens of millions of Americans while we're in the middle of a pandemic. It could also mean the undoing of same-sex marriage rights, the undoing of reproductive rights at a grand scale, not just Roe, but also, I mean, today she raised questions about rulings that protect even married couples' access to contraception. Fertility doctors have come out in an unprecedented way and essentially anti-endorsed her, called for her not to be confirmed to the court because of her participation with groups in the past that want in vitro fertilization treated as manslaughter and people locked up for that. Given that record and given that if she's confirmed, it'll essentially be a 6-3 court with her on the side of 6. What do you say tonight to Americans who are scared about that, who don't think of this as a abstract issue or a political issue, who aren't gaming this out, but who are worried about their rights and their families when she's confirmed?
No, you're right, Rachel. And I actually talked about that today in the hearing. People are scared. You're right. Civil rights are on the line. Workers' rights are on the line. Consumer rights are on the line. Health care is on the line. All of these things are at stake. You are absolutely right. And the only point that I can make to hopefully relieve some of that righteous fear is we have an election coming up. And it's not only about the White House, it's about the Senate. And, you know, I've been in the United States Senate now for 3.5 years, and I'm going to tell you something. I've been serving on this Judiciary Committee for a little while. The Senate makes decisions about who will be in these lifetime positions on these courts. And it is there that these decisions will be ultimately made about our civil rights, about our right to love who we love and marry them, about our right to have equality and equal justice under law, about whether we protect collective bargaining and the rights of workers, whether we agree that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. That's where those decisions are made, and the United States Senate has a lot to do with it. And when we take back the Senate and have the majority, we will have a lot to do with whether or not we are one step closer to those ideals we hold dear. Right now, we don't have the majority in the Senate. And so what have we seen? With Donald Trump and this Senate, we have seen nominations, because I've been there, I've witnessed it on the Judiciary Committee. I mentioned this in the debate. Rachel, 50 nominations and confirmations to the United States Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments. Do you know of the 50, not one person is black? I've been watching where they bring in these nominees who are unwilling to agree that Brown v. Board of Education is precedent. It's crazy. And, I mean, you know, to use a term. So there is one thing we can do among the many things. Well, let's not stop protesting. Let's not stop being active. Let's not stop speaking up and shouting when necessary. And let's vote. And let's vote, guys. Let's vote.